Okay, here we go. Excellent connection. We should be streaming. Give me a share link. Interesting. That looks better. Are we good now? Huzzah. That looks good. Huzzah. That looks... That's everyone. Let's go. Give me that. Give me canvas. Give me an announcement. 5. Let's put that there so it's easily searchable for people. Let's go. Stream looks healthy. Views are coming in. Let's check. The announcement is live. It is. And that is all good. Okay. How many Red Bulls in the stream? Let's see. Let's see how we go. I have this and then I have another 2 waiting just in case. I'm hoping it will be good and it will be smooth and it will be easy. But, yeah, I'm prepared. Who is excited? Who is excited for test day? It's going to be good. 5-page report. No, no. Can you imagine trying to summarize the entire 12 weeks down into a 5-page report? That would be the most evil thing I could imagine doing to you. It's 24 plus conclusions, plus abstracts, plus bits and pieces, references, and stuff like that. But we will get to that. We will go through it. I have the document. It's ready to go. It's ready to be released as far as I'm concerned. And where is it? There it is. 3, take it or leave it. Ah, good. $4.59. Okay. I'll make that later. Let's pull you up. There we go. That looks good. Okay, people are still coming in pretty thick and fast, so we will give it till 5 past. Oh, we look like we're good though. So if you have any questions between now and 5 past, anything you wanna rapid fire out, I'm more than happy for the next 4 minutes, 3.5 minutes. Let me know if there's anything I can help you with now. We'll get started at 5 past, just so that it's nice for anybody who is here to get specific information. Mhm. Am I doing milestones for the 8 a.m. class tomorrow? Let's see. I'm doing milestones for an 8 a.m. class tomorrow. I'm doing them for the mechs. Can you test your structures with 3 tanks? First the 50. So this is a civil question, I'm guessing. Yeah, you will definitely be able to test with the 50 and then the 200. Whether we do the 125 or not is we rarely need it. It's rarely a useful data point to get. So yes, we can do the 50 first, check it survives that, and if it survives that, we can do the 200. If we need to do the 125, we will, but it's extremely rare that that's actually a useful test. What do we need to record now for the report? Your testing data so that you can justify and evaluate your decisions, which you're about to see is an important thing to do. Can we follow on Facebook, or is that uni ethics? What do you... I don't understand the question. Or did you find the old ENGG1500 Facebook page? I don't... That has had no... I don't even know if that still exists. It hasn't had content put in it in like 6 years. How tall are the walls on the robot course? The same height that they were on the Rage Cage, the competency test, whatever that was, like 280 or maybe 240 or something like that. If we're doing calculations as a group for test day, can we copy that straight into our final report? Yes. So when in a couple of minutes we get to talking about an acknowledgement section, throw that in again then, and we can use that as an example. Do we need pictures of your build process? Absolutely, you do. You should have them regardless. That's just something you should always do as an engineer whenever you're building anything, is take progression pictures no matter what. Whether somebody else needs them, you will want them. It's always a good thing to have. Also, if it all comes crashing down the day before test day, you absolutely want whatever evidence you possibly can have that says, hey, we were doing good work up until this point. Okay, 5:04. We are about to get started. We have less people than I expected in the stream. Oh well. You guys are gonna have an easy time of your report, and they're not. 5:05. Let's get started. Okay, so today we're going to hit some final report stuff, and we're going to talk about what you need to do for test day. Before I launch into that, and I only want to spend like 2 minutes on this, but I've been doing milestones in most of your classes over the last 2 weeks, right? I've been to every single one of them bar I just checked. I've got 3 more to do tomorrow, and then I will have been in every single one of the 31 ENGG1500 classes over the last 2 weeks. I like to do this because it gives me a really good sense of where we are. I get to see you, I get to talk to every single one of you and know where you're up to, how you're going, stuff like that. Some of you have needed to be adjusted, and that's why I do this in weeks sort of 9 and 10, because it gives you've got enough of your design to have an idea of where you're heading, but you've still got enough time to do a course correction if you needed a course correction. So that happened to a lot of people. So if you got course corrected, that's fine. That happens to loads of people. And look, a lot of you are going to be pretty busy over the next 2 weeks. I don't think I'm surprising anybody when I tell them that. But the whole idea of doing this process is that you get realigned in week 8 or 9 or 10 or whenever it is, such that in the next 2 very busy weeks, you come into test day and you are fucking ready to go. And you've got this in the bag. And there's no awkward question I can ask you on test day that I haven't already asked you that you don't have an awesome answer to. The goal of doing this is that it ends up with people coming into test day and absolutely smashing it, okay? Kick your ass now so that you can kick ass on test day. And overall, and I want to be real careful about this, things are going pretty well. I've seen a lot of people who come week 11 are going to have passable projects. And come week 12, I've already earmarked a whole bunch of teams that are looking like they're going to do really, really well come week 12. I'm quietly confident. I'm extremely superstitious, and I absolutely don't want to utter any words that are going to tempt the wrath of anything. But we're doing pretty well. Overall, I'm pretty happy. So, well done in getting to this point in week 10. Some of you have really got to fucking pull your finger out, but most of you are doing really, really well. Good work. Cool. Can I confirm the date and time for test day? For the overwhelming majority of you, it's just in your regular scheduled workshop. So one of the things that we will talk about in a minute, and it was one of the course corrections that a lot of you needed, was if you are 1 second late to test day, and that is your regular scheduled workshop, your entire team will get 0. It is unacceptable to be late, for example. So these are the types of things you got to do. But for most of you, it's in your regular scheduled workshop, unless you're an aero or a desal, and we're going to talk about that later. The point here is I wanted to start with a well done. Even if you kind of got your ass kicked a little bit over the next couple of weeks, I'm still pretty happy with how the course is going overall. So today we're going to release assessment 6. I'm going to talk to you about the requirements for demo day, and then we're going to talk about how to give your pitch and how not to suck at that. Okay, so that's kind of the 3 things. I want to keep the questions in the appropriate spot. So for the next little while, we're talking about the report. We're not talking about demo day. Then once we finish talking about the report, we've finished talking about the report, we're going to talk about demo day, and then I'll do open Q&A at the end, because I understand you'll have questions. Let's do our best to stay on topic, all right? So, final report, let's go. I'm officially releasing it tomorrow night, but I'm showing it to you now. If there are some things that we look at right now and we're like, this could be worded differently, or this needs to be slightly changed for one of the projects or something like that, that's why I'm giving myself until tomorrow night to make some of these corrections. I'm just gonna actually give me this. This is an easier way for me to see what's going on. I'm just trying to max the zoom out. All right, hopefully that is a good zoom and I can still see your questions. So I'm going to work through this document, start to finish, talk you through it, okay? I'll turn these off so they don't annoy people. Assessment 6 is your final report. It is an individual assessment task. Yes, you've been working on your projects as a team. This is an individual report. It is officially due Friday of week 13 at midnight, at 1 minute to midnight, 23:59. This right here is the official due date. Okay? I'm giving you an extension right now. Before you even ask for one, I'm giving you an extension. I'm giving you a 3-day extension until Monday of week 14 at 23:59. You get the weekend for free. take this extension with a massive warning. It is very likely that you will have an exam on that Monday. All right. It's really common for maths or programming to be scheduled on Monday of the first day of the exam period, week 14. So I'm giving you this extension, but don't tank your maths exam because you waited until the weekend to do your report. All right. I'm not allowed to make your report due any later than that, but you are getting an extension to this point. Be aware, this is an extension. There are no extensions on extensions for any reason at the university. So if you are sick over the Saturday, the Sunday, and the Monday, doesn't matter. It was due on the Friday. Okay, it's officially due on the Friday. I'm giving you an extension to the Monday. So don't come and ask me for an extension off this. I expect you to have a submission in the system by Friday. It might be a draft submission and you might update that over the weekend, and that's fine. But I expect everybody to have a submission in the system by Friday at 23:59. Also, this is 23:59. It is not midnight. If you submit between 23:59 and midnight, you will get 0. Don't tempt the system. Okay? Soft copy submission to Canvas, just as you did before. It's exactly the same as your assessment 2. 30% report is what it says in the course outline. I might be able to do some things to help you out here as well about some mark optimization, but we'll see how that plays out. But at the moment, it's a 30% report. All right, your job. Construct a complete engineering report on your project. So you're doing a full start to finish report on your finished project. Your target audience is an educated person who is not an expert in the field. This phrasing, this way of describing your target audience, is the really common one in almost all professional writing. Virtually every time I write a paper or a book chapter or a report or a presentation or whatever, this is the way they describe a generic target audience. An educated person who is not an expert in the field. So for you, you can think of that as another ENGG1500 student from a different discipline. It's really easy for you to wear that hat. Okay, your report will need to detail your entire project. Start to finish, give me the whole thing. Do not assume the audience has read any of your previous work, so they haven't read your assessment 2. They've just got this, so this has to include your assessment 2, and that's going to become really obvious in a minute. Do not assume they have access to any course material other than the lectures for ENGG1500. So you can't assume that they've got access to like your labs or any of that. This is almost word for word identical to what you were asked to do for assessment 2. So the same as before. I am giving you express permission to reuse some material from your previous report if it is applicable. You do not need to cite it. So you do not need to cite your A2 if you want to use some of that content. You just put it in. The whole point here is that like A2 didn't exist. Do not assume your reader has read your previous report. Okay, you will not get the same markers this time as you had last time. I get that question every now and then. Good. Good. All right. Your report must include the following content. An abstract. Maximum 1-page abstract. If you don't know what an abstract is, look it up. This is a really important thing. It is basically a summary, like a blurb on the back of the book, except it gives away the ending. It's a short summary of the major outcomes and learnings of your project. A studious reader, so somebody who's paying attention, like one of your markers, should be able to read just your abstract and understand the major outcomes of your report. So, did your project work? What did it do? What was it? What did it do? Did it work? How did test day go? The major outcomes of your project. It's extremely important because it's the first thing they're going to read, and most markers will have started making their mind up about you by the time they finished reading your abstract. In fact, you can actually grade most students pretty accurately by only reading their abstract if you're an experienced marker. You guys aren't experienced markers. You shouldn't do this. But most people who've been marking for 10 years can read an abstract and be like, this is at D or an HD or something like that. So when you write it, you should write it at the end. You should write the overwhelming majority of your report first. Then you should come to your abstract and you should write it and you should make sure it's good. Okay? Cool. It is not an introduction. It is brief standalone summary. I think we've covered that. Be as quantitative as possible. Put numbers in there wherever you can. Put the outcomes of test day in there. Okay, that's easier for some projects than others, but put whatever numbers and outcomes you can in. Abstract. Maximum 1 page, goes right at the beginning of your report. Acknowledgements. This is an optional section. You do not have to have an acknowledgement section. It is not required. Many people don't feel the need to have it, but a lot of people find it really useful. The purpose of an acknowledgement section is allow you to acknowledge others who have helped in the creation of either the solution or the report. Now, nobody is allowed to help you write the report, but they might have helped you come up with something that is in it. Like, for example, to throw back to Braden's point, if somebody's done a bunch of calculations and they've got a really nice set of calculations that theoretically describes the performance of your solution, you can use those calculations and everybody in the team could use them, but how do they credit the person who did them? You don't reference them because they're not in the public domain. It's not published work. You would give an acknowledgement to that person. So you'd have an acknowledgement section. The author is thankful to the teammates, blah, 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 who contributed to these particular things. And then you would say, team member 1, who did all of the calculations for blah, 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 blah. And team member 2, whose prototype is actually the one that we ended up turning into the real design, and they did heaps of extra work to make that a reality. Or team member 3, who collected all of this data for us that I am now using. You could acknowledge these people here. Now, normally, if I was writing this as like a paper or whatever, I would name them to give them the credit. Because you have to remain anonymous, I want you to refer to them as team member 1, team member 2, team member 3. Throw that in your acknowledgement section, and then later on in the report, where you come to those calculations, you can just put in a brief note or a figure or whatever, a brief note, acknowledgement to team member 2 for this data or for this whatever. Wherever possible, you should, still take your own photos and collect your own data, but I completely acknowledge that it's not possible for that to happen at all times, and, there'll be parts to your solution. If you don't need that, then you don't need that. If you can write your entire report without an acknowledgement sections and you don't think it's required, that's fine, but most people find it helps them. So you put it in here, and that's an acknowledgement section, okay? Okay. An introduction to the topic. You're going to find... okay, so good question here. Can we name you, meaning Dylan, or should we refer to me anonymously? So the point about this being anonymous is that I need it to be impossible for one of your students to name another student basically in the course. So I don't care whether I'm anonymous or not. Everybody knows me already. I don't care whether the tutors are anonymous or not. That doesn't matter. The identities I need to protect are the identities of the other students in the course. So when we're talking about anonymity, however you say that word, it's about being able to identify other students in the course. There is a little bit in this that we're going to come to like right at the end. So because this come up last time, if somebody says I or we or our, that doesn't break anonymous rules, right? The people in that are still anonymous. That's fine. It's use of personal pronouns, which isn't great, and they shouldn't have done it, but it's still anonymous. If you name someone, then it's bad. Naming a tutor is fine. Naming me is fine. Naming people in references is fine. But you should never mention another ENGG1500 student for any reason. I hope that clarifies. So is this like an actual engineering report? There's no such thing as an actual engineering report. That doesn't exist. There are reports that suit appropriate target markets. This is a type of engineering report, but it's one of literally thousands of types. This isn't, for example, the type of report I'd ever hand a client, but it is the type of report that I might internally do within my own company. But yeah, there's no such thing as an engineering report, which is what I've been trying to hammer into you guys about know your target market and stuff. All right, let's pull this back. So that's an acknowledgement section. Introduction. This wording is going to be very similar. You've seen this before. An introduction to the topic, maximum 12 pages to be split up as you see fit. After reading this section, the reader needs to be up to date with the current state of the art. State of the art means they just need to know what's going on. They need to not be in the dark about it. They need to have a background, a good understanding of the situation. The term we use for that is state of the art. Okay, you should include but are not limited to an introduction to the problem, justification of the importance of your project, description of your client, target market, and customer, scope with relevant constraints and objectives, assumptions and models relating to the problem, relevant background. This was basically your assessment 2, right? You don't have to do it the same way that you did your assessment 2. If you did a really bad job of assessment 2 and you just want to put it in the bin and start again, that's fine. If you did a really good job and you just want to make a couple little improvements and a couple of tweaks to make sure it's the most useful way of describing this thing, this is similar but not the same as your assessment 2. All right, so you should be tweaking it, but if you'd like to just tweak your assessment 2, you are allowed to. The page limit should allow you to do that. I've given you some more flexibility here. I haven't given you, this has to be 1 page, this has to be 1 page. Just the whole kind of background section can't be more than 12 pages. That's it. So if you find it's more appropriate to throw 3 or 4 pages in the introduction and shrink some of these other sections, that's fine. If you realize that, oh, I really need a good set of models and assumptions here because later on when I'm evaluating it, they're really important, then you can grow those sections if you need to. So similar to your assessment 2, but deliberately not exactly the same. Again, you do not need to reference your assessment 2. You can just simply reuse the content. You do not reference yourself. Will we need a cover sheet? Yes, you will. I'm going to get to constraints in a minute. Hey, Greggy, what you doing, buddy? Hey, mate, how you going? Are we supposed to discuss theory that only relates to our project? For example, if we make a drag-based wind turbine, do we need to talk about lift and its principles? You want to talk about, this is probably going to make a little bit more sense in a minute. Once we get to the end, Jeffrey, if you're still confused, ask that question again, but I think this is going to become a little bit more clear. Happy Thursday to you too, Alex. All right, description of your design. Detail your final design. I need to know what your actual design is, how it works, what it does. So explain to me what your design is and explain to me how it was intended to satisfy the project's end constraints. So how is it supposed to work? We were going to build this thing, this drag-based turbine, and it was going to spin to turn the generator like this, using drag to create torque, to transfer into the shaft to generate electricity, and it was going to use its tail fin to face into the wind. Give me this. Justify your design decisions with respect to your performance, your constraints and objectives, using performance criteria, basically. So this is the why. There is the what. What did you make? And then why did you make it that way? What were you trying to achieve? What was your engineering logic that went behind it? Provide sufficient information for the client to reproduce your design. So this could be a whole bunch of things. Costings will be required. Drawings, if you are making a wind turbine, you'll have drawings of all the parts and the dimensions and stuff like that. You might have some of those calculations that we were talking about before. If you're doing the robot project or something like that, I don't want to see all your code, okay? I don't need code. I never ever want to see blocks of code in a report. But if you want to tell me how the decision making and the logic works, give me a UML diagram that shows me that. Or whatever else it is that you think is required to communicate this. This is not necessarily an exhaustive list, but they're some of the common things that different projects will often use. Pictures are a good example. Somebody before asked about, should we be taking pictures as we go? Absolutely, you should be taking pictures as we go. Use of figures is highly encouraged. Cool, cool, cool. I'm trying to be as clear as possible, right? Be visual about this wherever you can. Don't give me 20 pages of text. Give me instructions as dot points, or give me pictures, or give me diagrams wherever you can to help me understand. This does not have to be one section. You can break it up into a few different parts, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a sec. Evaluation and analysis of your design. So this bit is, what did we make and what was it meant to do? And then this bit is, what did it do? How did it actually perform? Evaluate how well your solution solved the problem. And I want to be really careful here. How well did it solve the problem? Not how well did it fit the rubric, not how well necessarily did it perform on test day, but did it solve the customer's problem in the first place? Okay? That's really important. Hopefully the rubric that we give you on test day is representative of that, but it's not always, because not all solutions fit into a static rubric. So how well did it solve the problem? Report on your week 11 testing and week 12 testing. So all of you should be doing testing in week 11. It's pretty much mandatory. And then week 12 as well. And you might be able to do, we did some week 11 testing. It didn't do super well. We made some modifications, and by week 12, we were doing much better because of these reasons. That's a really good evaluation. It's a test, justification, evaluation, continuous improvement process. We want to be able to see that. I want to see data, and I want to see data, okay? So wherever possible, put numbers to things. Our thing did pretty good. Fuck does that mean? Our thing scored a 6 out of 10, or it produced this much power, or this much water, or held this much weight, or whatever it is. Put numbers to this wherever possible. You're not always going to be able to put numbers. Sometimes you're going to have to put a good, bad, whatever. Use comparisons where you can, but try to just be as clinical and as systematic about this as you possibly can, so that you can get very clear. We thought it would do this. It did or didn't do that. And so this was a good or bad idea. So you can get a nice, clean progression of idea, test, data, conclusion. Cool. Preliminary testing and prototyping, how that helps you improve your final design. We've spoken about that. Critically evaluate your solution with reference to your performance criteria. So this is what I was talking about up here. You've said you use this performance criteria to make decisions. Were they good decisions or not? And they're not always going to be. Sometimes you're going to be like, yeah, we wanted to do blah, 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 so we made all these decisions for that reason, and it turned out that was terrible and a really bad idea. That's fine. It happens. Just document that process. Or, yeah, it worked really well and everything was fantastic. But be critical about it, okay? We're not looking for you to say that the thing you made was just the best thing on the face of the earth. If you say that and it's clearly not, you're going to get massacred in this section. Yep. Again, use of figures and data, images, graphs, and tables is highly encouraged here. Be as quantitative as possible. So same as what I was saying before. Images are the best. Graphs are also really good. Tables are questionable. I don't know if Alex is still in the chat, but Alex is like a vendetta against the use of tables. He thinks they're the worst way of presenting data, and he's not wrong. If you've got data and it's just a ramble shamble of data, fine, put it in a table. But anytime you ever put a table into a report, ask yourself the question, can I make this into a figure instead? Human beings process data in figures far, far better than they process data in tables. Okay? So if ever you put a table in, try and put a figure or a graph in instead. Sometimes tables are your only option, and sometimes tables are really good. Like performance criteria and stuff like that might belong in a table. I'm not necessarily saying they're always bad. Just ask yourself, could I make a figure out of this, and would it be better? You are allowed to compare to other teams' solutions. In fact, it's generally encouraged. And you may include a future work section. So many of your designs aren't going to work on test day as well as you hoped they would. The idea behind a process like this, big picture, if we take a step back, how this would work with a real world client is you would make one, and then if I thought, yeah, this team's onto something, then we would make a Mark II of your prototype. And I would probably be the person, the company, the client, would probably take your design and make a Mark II of that prototype. So if you'd like to give me some very clear next steps, absolutely happy to see that in a future work section with the evaluation. We wanted to do this. We tried to achieve it this way. It worked kind of well. We should do these next steps, and then it will unambiguously be better. That's a nice flow to have. Be very clear with them, though. Don't write future work sections as this should be improved. How should it be improved? If it's a wishy-washy, ambiguous set of future work, don't bother putting it in. It's a waste of time. If it's a very clear, we put 4 bolts in and we should have put 6, cool. That's fine. That's an easy one. Okay. These 2 sections, description of design and evaluation and analysis of your design, have a combined 12-page limit to be distributed as you see fit. I'm giving you some flexibility here. The reason I'm giving you some flexibility here is depending on the project you're doing, these sections are going to look really, really different. The robot project is going to look totally different to the mechanical project here. The software project's going to look totally different again. So I'm giving you quite a lot of flexibility in how you decide to break these sections up. It's also kind of based on how did you work? Did you constantly make little prototypes and constantly iterate them through? Or did you spend ages designing, make one prototype, test it, and then make one set of improvements before the final? These are going to look very different. So, yeah, you have some flexibility there, but no matter what, make it clear and easy for your marker to see all the key information. The person who is marking this isn't going to read every single one of your sentences. You know they're not. They're going to look through, try and find these things quickly and easily. And if they can, they're going to give you good marks for those sections. If they can't, if it's confusing, if it's poorly laid out, then they're going to give you bad marks. So you have some flexibility, but that in some ways is dangerous. Make sure it's very clear to your reader where you've put the information and that it has a nice flow. Okay? 12-page limit should be heaps. It's not enough for you to dump in just every single technical drawing you've ever made of your design, and that's fine. You could relegate some of those to an appendix, which we're going to get to in a second. Cool. Final summary and conclusions detail the most important aspects and outcomes of your project. This section may repeat information in previous sections, should not contain new data. Recommendation if the client should pursue this solution. So at the end of the day, is it worth it or not? Don't tell me that I should pursue this solution if I shouldn't. If it did badly, then say no. I'm looking for your ability to make a good evaluation here. If somebody else was better, then you should go with somebody else. Or if nobody else was good enough, then you should say, none of these designs realistically were a good thing to implement. We should go back to the drawing board and start again. That's a fine conclusion to draw if that was the case. I'm not looking for you to be a snake oil salesman here and sell me a crock of shit. Don't do it. This final summary and conclusion might look somewhat similar to the abstract. They're both meant to be very quantitative, fairly kind of blunt things that sort of give away the ending of what happened and have the concrete data in them. So it's quite common for an abstract and a conclusion to look reasonably similar. So don't freak out if they look pretty similar. That's okay. The idea is in the abstract, you tell me what you're going to tell me, and then we go through the report and you tell it to me, and then in the conclusion, you summarize what you just told me. That's the whole idea, all right? So tell me what you're going to tell me. Tell me it. Tell me what you just told me. That's intentional, okay? It feels a bit awkward because you often write this last and you write the abstract last. So to you, it might feel awkward, but to the reader, it won't. Reference list. Minimum 5 references, no maximum, no page limit here. So if you put 20 references in, that's fine. They're free. the reference list takes as long as the reference list takes. It's not in your page count, but you must have a minimum of 5. You must use IEEE or APA. I don't care if you use APA, whether you use 6th or 7th edition. 7th edition is technically the most up-to-date one, but I don't care. Just use either of those and you're fine. Use a referencing package. Do not write references in by hand. Don't do it. Use a referencing package. Use the one in Word or use EndNote or something like that. You also are required to cite throughout the body of the report, just like last time. So you must have in-text citations when you're, the data from blah, blah, blah was taken from this report. Cite the reference in the text, and then it also goes in your reference list. This has all been covered, so you should know this. Finally, appendices. No page limit. You may place additional information in your appendices, but don't assume it will be read. So if your team made 8 prototypes, and you want to put a picture in of all 8 prototypes, and I could see a reason why you might want to do that, and maybe some testing data to go with them. But you can't fit all of that in description of design without breaching a page limit. What do? You put 2 or 3 of those prototypes in there, and say the remaining 5 have been relegated to Appendix 1, and it's there. And if somebody's really keen, they can go and have a look at them, but they don't need to see them. Same thing goes with something like drawings, really long sets of calculations, loads of UML diagrams. Here is the UML diagram that shows more or less how this works. And then here is the UML diagrams for the other 7 bits of code that we wrote for different situations. The reader doesn't need to see all of those in order to understand how your solution works, but they might, so you can put them in an appendix. The way that this works, you should think about appendixes, is if you're unsure whether it belongs in the results or not, it belongs in an appendix. And if you're unsure whether it belongs in an appendix or not, it belongs in the bin. That's how it works, okay? Don't assume somebody's going to read your appendix. But if you've got somebody who's like, I think these people are lying and they didn't do very many prototypes, bang, there's another 5 prototypes in the appendix. That's how you do it. Prototypes, detailed drawings, assembly instructions could be another thing that goes in there. And that might be one, particularly like the civils, if you end up with an 8-page... So the civil project requires the students to create a set of assembly instructions. If those assembly instructions are 8 pages long, just say they've been put in Appendix 1. That's fine. Cool. Your report should still be able to be read and understood without the appendix. It is only for additional information. So they are the sections. So we're about to get into compliance and stuff like that, but I'm just going to check the chat and make sure. Cool. Guys, keep that out of the chat or you're going to get booted, okay? Can software include UML diagrams? Sure, absolutely. I would expect software to include UML diagrams. Must I have an appendix in my report? No. Let's actually... No, you don't. Let's grab that. And let's grab that. There you go. If there are any other questions about the sections, please chuck them in. Otherwise, I'm going to continue and we can always come back to it. All right. Requirements. We're going to get into like the compliance and stuff here. So your report must include the ENGG1500 A6 2024 title page correctly filled out. So do I have it open? No, I don't. It's somewhere. Anyway, it's the title page. It's like the last title page. It'll work in exactly the same way. Do the thing. You must have a table of contents. So you weren't allowed a table of contents last time, and you must have one this time. It is required. This is no longer a 10-page report where somebody could find something themselves faster than they could find it in the table of contents. These are going to be... That's 12-page limit. That's a 12-page limit. An acknowledgments, an abstract, a table of contents, or whatever, a final summary, reference list. These are probably going to be like 30-something, 40 page. They won't be 40. Probably 25 to 30 pages long is going to be common. So you must have a table of contents. It should have at least headings and subheadings. Subheadings, if you've opted to use them, maybe they go in the table of contents, maybe they're not needed. Must have headings and subheadings though, okay? You must have a list of figures. If you try and tell me that your report has no figures, then you've done a terrible, terrible job of this assessment and you deserve to get 0. Put figures in and thus have a list of figures. List of tables if required. So if you have tables, you must have a list of tables. Even if you only have one table in your report, you've got to put it in a list of tables. It's always annoying. It always sucks, but you have to do it, okay? A list of listings. So if, instead of putting code in your report, if you're doing a coding project, and you want to put a listing in instead of a UML diagram, which sometimes makes sense, doesn't often make sense, but sometimes it does. If you put a listing in, then you need a list of listings. Please note, there is no list of equations here. That is not required. I'm going to make a short for you, a little video. It won't actually be a short. It will just be a small video on how to add equation numbers so that you know how to do that correctly in Word as well. So I'll give you that. But you don't need a list of equations, okay? Compliance guidelines. You must use 12-point Times New Roman unless you're writing code or listings, which get done somewhat differently, but all your body text must be 12-point Times New Roman. Your body text must be double-spaced, just like it was last time. You must name your file, your soft copy file, correctly. It must be anonymous, and it is an individual task. If you breach any of these are going to be the things that go on the cover page as well. I want to be abundantly fucking clear about this. If you breach any one of them, I will have no hesitation in giving you a 0. Don't do it. Don't screw your file name up, like so many of you did last time. If you get missed by the auto marking system and you get given a 0, then you get given a 0. Don't mess it up, okay? These are, like, all of these other things you're going to get, and if you get them wrong, it's going to be like, oh, you're an idiot, why did you do that? That was dumb. If you get one of these things wrong, this screws with our marking system, and so the marking system is prone to give you a 0. Or you breached, anonymity, so you will get a 0, okay? So be super careful. They're going to go on the cover page just like they did last time. You should physically be making sure you mark them off. Don't breach any of these. Okay, submit to Canvas as a docx, file name, student number, underscore project name, this. So similar to last time, it's a little bit different format because I don't need tutorial number anymore or something like that. There's some part that I needed last time that I don't need now. Your project name is found in Discord under project section, all right? So it's whatever it is in the Discord when you go into the project thing and it's like mech info, mech general, mech whatever. That's your project name, okay? It's not wind turbine or whatever. It's whatever it says in the Discord. Just like last time, Canvas will allow you to upload and, upload, take it down, re-upload whenever you want. But as you learned last time, it can take a really long time. A whole bunch of people at like 11:30 last time took their submissions down and then couldn't re-upload in time. If that's you, you're going to get 0. Just don't do it. Don't do it, okay? As I've said, there will be no extensions for any reason past that Monday deadline. Okay. So listing. You are not supposed to hand it in as a hard copy. Where did it say hard copy somewhere? I didn't think it did. Where did you get hard copy from? There's no matches to hard anywhere in there. Yeah, it absolutely says soft copy to Canvas on the top of the document, right? Cool. What if my project is not fully completed? Can I still submit a report? Your project is due in week 12, so it will be finished by then. And then this is due in week 13. Can we hyperlink the table of contents? You could. You don't have to. I deliberately didn't ask you for hyperlinking the table of contents because it can do more, like it can break, particularly in different versions of Word and stuff like that. So if you can do it really well, do it. It's a little bit high risk, low reward though. So do it with caution. There are no minimum page limits. If you can do things in a shorter space of pages, by all means do so, but that's pretty tricky. Most people didn't find that they... Most people in the first report found that the maximum page limit was the problem, not the minimum. Do we still need the margins? Yes, you do. That's coming. What does it mean by spacing 0? Hold on. Oh, I'm in Word. It's easy. Paragraph, spacing, before and after. Should be 0 and 8. So this is the spacing. Where did I not have it? Here? Okay. So what this means is when I use the carriage return and enter and I type stuff in, see how this gap here is bigger than that gap there? That's because my after spacing is set to 8. That's what that does. It sets that gap there. 0 and 8 is the default as far as I'm aware. So that's what I've set it to for your body text. It should mean you just don't have to change it. But every now and then people try and play funny games with this. And so, yeah. Where do we put the list of on their own separate page, like acknowledgments? Yeah, okay, good call. These should all be their own separate page, and they should all go... There's a little bit of debate in the community about exactly where these go, and whether the abstract should go here or not, and then actually the acknowledgements as well. And then here is introduction. I'm going to get rid of this, but so this, I'm surprised I can't spell acknowledgements, but I'm surprised I can't spell introduction. This, it would be a very common order to lay them out in. Some people will move the abstract and the acknowledgements down and put them here and lay them out like this. I don't care. My personal preference is this, although I do actually think it is more common to do it like this. Either is fine by me, and thus fine for you to do. Okay? But all of it goes before the acknowledgement, before the introduction, and yes, these should all get their own page. It will look weird to give the list of tables its own page when it has only one table on it. I know, it looks weird. Sometimes you would sneak it onto the same page as the list of figures, but don't do that because that's just asking for trouble. Good question. Yeah, list of tables, list of listings should be on a new page. Hey, Hugo. Cheers, check. Default is before 0, after 8. Excellent, good. If you don't know what a list of figures, list of tables, list of listings is, this is figure 1 is on page 3. Figure 4 is on page 6. Go watch the Word 101 video. It tells you what they are. So is the number thing... I think we might get to your question in a minute. All right, we did that, we did that, we did that. Let's jump into the formatting guidelines. I'm going to just smash through these pretty quickly. I don't feel any of these need explanation, but if one of them flags a massive question and you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about here, let's make sure it's nice and it's clear, all right? So, fully justified text, you should know what that is. Check the Word 101 video if you don't. Black text at all times, including captions and hyperlinks. I got asked about hyperlinks a bunch of times in the last report. Make them black. It's ambiguous which one they should be. I'm saying make them black. Headings, the same as last time. Now, headings, captions, dot points, references, figures... figure and table text can have single or multiple spacing and before and after spacing as you see fit. So, for example, like these dot points might have, they don't have double spacing, right? They've got multiple at 1.08. If you want to do that, that's totally fine. If you take dot points and you make them be double spaced, They look super weird. So you don't have to double space your dot points. And also with your headings, sometimes you don't necessarily want this before and after spacing to be this way for headings. Most of the time it's okay, but every now and then it makes stuff look really weird. You are allowed to change it in those cases. Sections and subsections should be numbered, so introduction should be 1, and if you have some sections within your introduction, it should be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, whatever. All major headings start on a new page. Captions are to be correctly inserted as captions. So, as again, watch the Word 101 video. You guys already know how to do this. Figures are to be centered and never text wrapped. So there should never, ever, ever be text on the sides of your figures for any reason, okay? If you've got a small figure and you don't like all the white space on the sides of it, look as to whether you can make a multi-part figure that takes up more of that white space. Multi-part figures in general are good things to use. Tables smaller than 1 page should not be split over 2 pages. No vertical lines in tables. This was all in the lecture. All equations to be entered using the equation editor. Do not screenshot equations and put them in for any reason. I will, as I've said, I will make you a video on how to put equation numbers in, because I know a lot of you wanted to do that, so you could refer to equation 3. I will teach you how to do that separately. It's not hard, but it's dumb. So I'll show you how to do that. Correctly formatted units in accordance with the units lecture. Arabic page numbers in the footers and Roman numerals as page numbers before the first page of the body, i.e. the introduction. So Arabic numbers, for those of you who don't know, are normal numbers. The numbers you use every day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. They are Arabic numbers. So you must put those page numbers in before, and the introduction should be page 1. And all the stuff that comes before that, the list of table of contents and all that type of stuff, gets Roman numerals as the page numbers. Watch the Word 101 video for how to use a section break to put a section break in just above your introduction so that you can do the page numbers. It's not that hard. It takes a little bit of fiddling around. It's not that hard. Narrow margins, referencing according to IEEE or APA. We've spoken about that already. At least 5 references. We've spoken about that already. Personal pronouns should be avoided. Note the use of personal pronoun is not a breach of anonymity. We had this come up a few times last time. I want to be clear about it. So saying I did this and we did that is bad, and it shouldn't happen in your report, because you should be discussing facts. It should be formal. It shouldn't have I's and we's. Every now and then, when you're making an evaluation or something, it might be it might be justified, but it's very rare that it's justified, but sometimes it is. That's not a breach of anonymity, but it still should be avoided. We've talked about making sure it's anonymous and using an acknowledgement section. This is just basically a repeat of that information. And any and all other rules to be obeyed. Finally, remember your document, its whole job is to bring somebody up to speed on the project. It's a little bit, sometimes you get lost in all of this. Take a step back, take a breath. What are we trying to do? We're trying to bring somebody up to speed on the project. Just because something took you many hours, many hours of beating your head against a wall, doesn't necessarily mean it needs a lot of pages. This is not a recount. This is not, I came in today and I did this. I came in tomorrow, the next day, and I did this. I came in the day after and I did this. That is not what I've asked you for at any stage. I've been very careful to explicitly not ask you even for a methodology section. It might come up in your description of design, but I haven't asked you for what you did. I'm asking you for what your final design is, okay? It might be appropriate to take me through the journey of getting there, but be very clear, this is not a recount. Yeah, make sure you introduce all of the new terminology that you learn, and as always, you may assume that they're a standard engineering student. They're taking a bit of math, they're taking a bit of programming. Not the in-depth stuff necessarily that you need for your project, but they can talk the talk at least a little bit. That's it. So let's have a scan here. I got up to there. I highlighted it for myself. So what is the number thing in the table? Does the abstract get Arabic or Roman? Roman, because it will become before the introduction. The abstract and the acknowledgements are always before the introduction. They are actually in here. So follow this pattern. Abstract acknowledgements. Now, whether you put in here table of contents and stuff like that and list of figures, yeah, that's fine. But they come before the introduction. The introduction goes here. This is where you start your Arabic page numbers. Hopefully that's clear if you give this another reread. I tried to be clear there. I know I'm giving you a lot of information thick and fast right now. Yes, you are correct, Benjamin returns. Can I use double-sided pages? It's an online submission. If you can figure out how to project onto both sides of the monitor, man, good luck. It's an online submission, dude. You're fine. Don't stress. For the transition from Roman numerals to Arabic, does it go 7 to... It goes 7 to 1. Okay? No one's going to be too pedantic about this, but your introduction should start at 1. Is that worth clarifying? Before the first page of the body of the report, the introduction, which should restart at 1? Is that the simplest way to clarify that? Do we refer to our teams using chute number and table number of ES, or can I say our team did this? You can say our team did this, that's fine. If you then want to compare to another team and say team 2 did this, if you want to call yourself team 4, that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. Does that mean instructions as dot points are not good to put in? No, they're very good to put in. They're very good to put in. Dot points have deliberately been given a spacing setup that allows them to be really efficient. With the document name, do we need to put in C12356 for our student number or just the number? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Number should. How many numbers are in a student number? 7? Tell me if that's right or wrong. Hopefully that helps. 6? Really? Okay, cool. 6, 7? Ah, Matthew Lane Goltz, you got me. You absolutely got me. Oh, Amber, is that good? You happy with that? Does that help? With the document, no, we did that. Probably make a short video about the Roman numeral. That's in the Word 101 video. And if you don't know how to do that, you're missing some other really important stuff that's in the video. So I want people to go and watch that video. But how to do equation numbering isn't in the Word 101 video. So that's why I'm going to make a short for that. How is this being marked? All right. So do the page numbers in the Roman numeral font front section also need to count in do the page numbers in the Roman numeral front section also need to count in Roman numerals? I'm confused, Frank. I'm confused. I'm going to say watch the Word 101 video and hope it makes sense to you. Okay, so that's the document. Hold on. Let me save the document. Cool. So that's the document. Now, there's a little bit more information in here, and this is going to answer one of the other questions in the chat that I just skipped. If I get any more changes, I'll put them in. I'm going to try and lock this by midnight tomorrow night. But if I've realized I've made a really big boo-boo, I'm going to update it, and I'm going to tell you, hey, I've made this update. Hey, it's 6 o'clock, the exact time I wanted to finish with this. So we're doing okay. Your description of the student number has a 1 breaking up. Wait, what? Did I screw that up? Oh, yeah, good call. Good catch. Good catch. Good catch. No, no, you don't. Good catch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, let's do this. As I've said, when I make a mistake, which I'm clearly going to do, I will fix it and I'll let you know that I've made an update. And hey, I made a boo-boo here, everybody. It is now fixed. But I'm hoping to do my best to lock it by tomorrow night. All right, submissions and markings. It's going to be very similar to Assessment 2 and Assessment 3. You'll upload through the Feedback Fruits portal just like you did last time on Canvas, and it will go through the peer marking rubric just like it did last time. Obviously, those rubrics will be updated, and they might get changed around a little bit. So some of them are going to look very similar, and then they'll simply be updated. Some of them might grow and get a little bit bigger because like there's more compliance now than there was, not compliance, like formatting rules than there was before. So that rubric will grow a little bit, and you'll obviously have a rubric that asks you to talk about that evaluation and stuff. So they'll get updated a little bit, but the format will be very similar. Yeah. So that part will be more or less the same. And then the peer ranking form will be again similar, but will get updated. One of the lessons I learned from the first time around was that simply saying don't rank a report if it's not anonymous or whatever wasn't the smartest idea by me because it made heaps and heaps of work for me in the background to then go and track a whole heap of them down. So I'll update the form a little bit and it will have rank your reports here 1 to 5 if they are all genuine good attempts. Then if your report you suspect was a non-attempt, it was a 2-pager or something, put it here. If you believe it was not anonymous, put it here. If you believe they used ChatGPT, put it here. This is just going to it's going to be a little bit more annoying for you, but I think it's only going to take you an extra literally 30 seconds to fill out. And it'll make my life a million times easier on the other end. So I think this will make us a little bit more accurate than we were last time. Don't make the mistakes that people made last time. So those of you who submitted late last time, don't. There is no, oh, I was only 2 minutes late. It doesn't matter. They go out for peer review immediately after the due date. There are no extensions. I've been as clear as I can be. A lot of people messed the file name up last time thinking it didn't matter. It really, really matters. Don't mess it up. So I'm very happy to go back, sure, and answer let's make sure the file name, there's no ambiguity around that file name. It's really, really important. Please don't mess it up. Because if there is a problem, the only way I can find you, other than sifting through and opening up one by one all of the reports and checking what you wrote in the title page, like that's what I have to do if you name your file name incorrectly. And that's just not going to happen because I'm not going to have enough time. If you don't do the peer ranking, you will get 0 for the report. You need to do the peer ranking in order to enter into the grade calculation to get a grade. So make sure you do the peer ranking. I'm gonna also try and update it so you get so you get a confirmation email when you do it, so that you kind of have a receipt in case there's an issue. There's an issue for a few people this time around. Okay. Yeah, the timing thing. The timing thing is rough. So I have given you as much time as humanly possible to do this. You're going to submit the report on Friday of week 13. Friday of week 13, of which you will get a small extension. But that means 2 weeks after that, Friday of week 15, you will have to do your peer reviews. And the week after that, you will have to review your reviewers. The Monday after that, I have to submit your final grades. I have to process 100% of your grades over that weekend. I think that's the way the calendar works out. So that weekend's going to suck for me. But it means there is no breathing space for not getting back to me in time with stuff, okay? I don't know that my timelines are quite that tight, and I really hope they're not, but there is a realistic possibility that they will be. They haven't given me the final graded date yet. But when that comes out, it may come out on that Monday, and if it does, so just do the things, okay? Follow the steps, and I'll get you your results as soon as I can. But yeah, I won't have a lot of time. Is the peer ranking A7? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Good question. All right, live streams. So, as always, I'm going to do live streams to help you guys out. We will do a live stream in week 11 and one in week 12, and I'm happy to answer report questions in those live streams, but experience tells me that there won't be that many report questions. Most of you will be focused on your projects between now and then, and that's fine. I have no problems with that. So, week 13, there are no classes running in week 13. We will absolutely do the normal Thursday live stream where I give you all feedback. Do you want to do another live stream? Do you think it would be helpful to do 2 streams in week 13 where I'm online giving you guys feedback? Do one on like the Monday or the Tuesday or something, and then do another one on the Thursday. We don't need to answer this now, but I guess I just want a bit of an indication of, were the streams helpful for assessment 2? Do you think the streams will be helpful for assessment 6? Should I make time for them? And do you think 2 streams in week 13, I know you're not there yet, are a good idea? Okay. Okay. This looks fairly unanimous. Okay. All right. That's it. So, any final questions about this? Let me know. I'm going to answer the remaining questions. I've got 1 or 2 things I want to do really quickly. Where was I up to? There. Do we fill out a form like last time? Yep. I got to that one. Yeah, I got 24 of these delivered today to get me through the week. How many reports will we need to mark? 5 again. Which is a reasonable amount of work, and I know that, and I acknowledge that. The more you mark, the more reliable your mark for assessment 6 was. So yeah, it's going to be 5 again. I'm going to do my best to make that as effective as possible for you. Can you please explain about file name? Just follow the instructions that are in the document, okay, to the letter. And somewhere in here, there's another one. If in Discord, the name mechanical course as mech with a lowercase m, is that how we should format it in our file name? Yes. You should just do it exactly the same. Even if it is an abbreviation like mech, that's fine. Call it exactly that. I care more that we get perfect uniformity than anything else, because it makes sorting 600 reports on my end so much easier. Last time you messed up the file name, how come I still got a mark? Because I went and manually found your report, and I gave you a mark. Yeah, I mean, this is the problem, Benjamin Returns, right? If I give everybody a 0 who messes up their file name, that's a big stick. It's super fucking annoying for somebody who messes up their file name, but that's a pretty brutal stick to hit a first year with. And I have this debate internally with myself, and every single year I'm like, nah, I'm giving them all 0s. And I'm like, no, Dylan, don't give them all 0s. No, the file name detector thing isn't case sensitive, but the more uniform it is, the easier my life is. Energy drinks and stress. Come on, I'm surviving on 2 things. Yeah, I will. I agree, Kyle. I will absolutely poll the Discord with a bunch of probably options on when the best time for a second live stream would be. And yeah, I'll tell you how, when I'm doing the streams, how I want the reports for feedback. It will probably be email like it was last time, but I'll let you know. For the acknowledgement section, I have only one other teammate. Does that matter? No, because you would simply name teammate 1. And no one would really know that you didn't have teammates 2, 3, and 4 and they just kind of sucked. So it's fine. Has all the important information been given? No, it hasn't. I just wanted to make sure. Do we provide an acknowledgement of country? No, you do not. You don't need to bribe me. It's okay. Should an appendix be in a separate section? Yes, it should be. Roman numerals or Arabic? Arabic is fine. There is actually some weird subtle rules around that, but Arabic is fine. I'm going to come back to the questions if there are any more, because there is another really important part to this stream that we need to get through, and it is talking about Demo Day. All right, so for those of you who don't know, Demo Day is happening in week 12 for everybody. The way that it will work is your team will stand up in front of your class. They will give a pitch, which is a short presentation, which we're about to talk about. We will fire some questions at you that you'll be expected to answer, and the class might ask some, I might ask some, your tutor might ask some, whatever. You'll answer some questions, and then we'll demonstrate your project. We'll collect whatever testing data we can, and that's kind of how it works. All right, so everybody goes to wherever they're doing testing. We pick a random team. They stand up, they give their presentation. We do that test. And then we move on to the next team. One of your jobs on Demo Day is to support everybody else. We don't mark competitively. I'm not ever going to take marks off you just because somebody did better than you. That's not how I mark. So you want to be on test day helping everybody else out around you. Ask them good questions. Let them talk about their design. Help them out if something is broken at the last minute. That's fine. Amp each other up for test day. You will never lose marks just because somebody else does better. And in fact, if I watch you fix somebody else's design and help them out and get them better marks, that will 100% reflect well on you and your team when you get up to present. So work as a group. Hunt as a pack, okay? It's not you against everybody else. It's all of you against the problem. Hunt as a pack. And enjoy yourselves. You have worked your ass off for the last 12 weeks to get here. Demo Day should be a celebration day. It's not a test in terms of I'm going to screw you to the wall and make this as hard as possible. It's you have kicked ass, let's highlight how well you've done. That's the objective of Demo Day. I understand the duality of me just being like, here are the rules for submitting your assignment, and then being like, have fun on Demo Day. But Demo Day is meant to be a celebration. What I'm about to do here is give you some general advice. There are 10 different projects with different rule sets here, so your tutors will also be coming in next week and giving you some discipline-specific advice. I'm going to try sometimes here, again, to be quite blunt, to try to make my communication as clear as possible. So some things that you all need to do before Demo Day, before week 12, is some pre-game. Every one of you has a bit of prep you will need to do before you walk in the door. One of those things is testing in week 11. You should or must, depending on your project, and realistically for everybody, the answer is must. If you don't test in week 11, you're in real trouble come test day. So get some testing data in week 11 to the best of your ability. It might not be very good, and your test in week 11 might be, we are failing hard right now. That's fine. You can still then compare your results on test day, on Demo Day in week 12, where you're failing less hard, and go, hey, look, we are on an upward trajectory. Make sure you get some week 11 testing data. Also, make sure you follow the rules that I'm going to tell you here, and the rules that are given to you by your tutors. Just to be very blunt and Dylan about this again, if you do the wrong thing on test day and make an excuse, I didn't know because you didn't watch this stream or because you didn't listen to your tutor when they told you, that's not an excuse. You're still just going to get 0 for that, okay? And it can hurt the rest of your team. So get on top of it. Pre-game. Let's talk about the things that you will need to do in advance. Aero, I don't think you know this yet, but all of you, regardless of when your class is during the week, we're going to compress all of the aero testing into Friday afternoon because we're booking the forum for you. So some things you'll need to do is get yourself to the forum, in the time slot for the aero testing, which is probably going to be 1 to 4 p.m. We're just waiting on confirmation of the booking, maybe 1 to 5. I understand that some of you may not be able to be there for that whole period, and maybe not every single member of your team may be able to make it because they have work commitments or whatever. That's fine. We accept that, but your team will need to be able to be there to present during that time on Friday afternoon of week 12. And you'll need to get to the forum, which is on campus. It's easy to get to, but you need to get your solution there and be ready to test and that type of stuff. For civil, you will need to fill out a form. There is, and this is going to happen to quite a few of you. Actually, I've got this form. Soph sent it to me last night. Some of you, many of you may end up getting a similar form to this. I just want to show this as an example that asks you to put some stuff in. Put your team number in, your group numbers, maybe has some questions. We're going to talk about costs in a second, embodied energy, whatever. You are expected to have filled this out before you get there. If your project has a form like this, and not all of them do, and not all of them will, but some of them will, if it does, and you show up and you haven't filled it out, we're just going to give you 0 for all of those categories. So make sure you fill it out. It won't be too hard. Also, civil, we'll need to put your structure in the box and make sure you've weighed it. You can do this on test day, but you can also do this in week 11 to save you some time. If you're in surveying, you're obviously going to have to go and bury your solutions for other teams to find. Sean will talk to you about that next week, like this on tomorrow and next week, so that you know. Just listen to Sean there. He's in control of that situation. If you're a D-Cell student, you'll obviously have to move. Well, you'll obviously have to listen out to Simon as to whether we're testing Wednesday, whatever the current test time is or not. If it's looking rainy, we'll give you updated test times. You'll have to get out to Scobie Heath. You'll have to set everything up, set it up well and truly in advance so that it can preheat, so that it's functioning when we start the timers. I also need to know how much salt water you want. There's going to be a post in your Discord, and this is going to happen to many of you. If I need information from you, I'm probably going to make a post in your Discord channel saying, reply to this message and tell me blah, blah, blah. So from the D-cells, I need to know how much salt water you need, for example. If you're in Viros, similar question. I need to know how much contaminated water you want to use for test day, so I'll make a post in your Discord about that, and you will obviously need to set up before class starts, which might take you a little while. Those of you who are doing softwares, you will need to share your project with Cornelius so that he can make APKs so that we can install them on our phones. I know he's already spoken to you about that, but once you've got a functioning app, talk to Cornelius about how he shares it to phones. He knows what's going on there. And the rest of you, basically, you will know during your week 11 workshop. Your week 11 tutorial. We'll talk to you then about your requirements for test day. If ever I need something from you, like the D-cells and the enviros, where I need to know how much water you need or whatever, that will go in your project info channel, and I'll ask you there, and I'll expect you to reply there. Okay, so be on the lookout for this. You will have to do some of this sometime between now and test day. Do not show up to test day without being prepared. It's super, super important. Okay, wet blanket, necessary evil. I got to be mean Dylan again here. There are some things, safety breaches particularly, but also some logistics stuff on test day that are going to carry enormous punishments. We need you to be safe on test day. We often have industry partners and things like that coming around and filming or watching or whatever, and anybody seen doing something unsafe is gonna cop it, and cop it hard. And anybody who messes with our logistics and that disadvantages another team, slows us down, damages a piece of equipment, again, you're gonna feel it there. So I have to do this, right? We're gonna expect you to be professional. Again, I want you to enjoy yourselves, but don't do things that disadvantage your teams or put yourself or anybody else in danger. Predominantly, this is being on time. You must be on time for testing. It is non-negotiable. If you get given instructions, obviously you'll be required to follow them, and particularly any and all safety requirements. Anything you do that disadvantages another team or makes yourself or anyone else unsafe, I don't care if you're happy with the risk. If you violate a safety thing, at best, we will take 10% off your team on the spot. and at worst, we will disqualify you immediately and tell you to leave, and your whole team will get 0. This can be subtle things. This is making sure you got your safety glasses on if you're using the aero launcher or using a tool or something like that. If you damage the robot track, you'll immediately, you put a coffee cup on the robot track and you put a stain on it, your entire team gets 0, quit, come back next year. That is just an unacceptable thing to do, right? So, cool. If you're sitting there now being like, oh no, I don't know, just ask. It's fine. I'm very happy for you to come up. Hey, Dylan, I'm a little bit nervous about doing the wrong thing here. Can you please just remind me of what the expectations are? I'm very happy to answer that. I will be a very high energy Dylan come test week. But if you don't know, ask, okay? Don't just do and hope that you get it right. Ask. Pitch. I understand there's questions in the chat. I will get to them. There's a natural stopping point coming up in a minute. So you will need to give a presentation, a pitch, with your project. Either, for many of you, it will be immediately before it gets tested. Some of you, it will be during testing. But, it's 120 seconds. I don't say 2 minutes. Like, you'll hear me say a 2-minute pitch quite often. But people interpret that as 2 to 3 minutes. It's 120 seconds. Don't think you're going to get 3 minutes, because we're just going to start marking you down and down and down and down the longer you talk past 120 seconds. If we cut you off, just cool, thank you very much. It's fine. I don't expect you to be able to hit 120 seconds on the dot. That's hard. If we cut you off, just say thank you and stop talking. All right? But try and make sure it's at least plausible for you to get to pitch out in 120 seconds. We talked about that. It's 1 per team, all right? It's not 1 per person. It's 1 per team. And you can pick who in your team speaks. It could be all 4 or 5 of you, and that's fine. And each one of you could take 30 seconds and you could go through it. That would be fine. Or it could just be 1 person who does 100% of the talking, because they're your pitch guy. I actually was the pitch guy for our company. When I built my startup company, I was the pitch guy. Anytime anybody had to speak, it was always Dylan. It was efficient because I always knew it was my job. I was getting thrown up in front of everybody, so I could focus on that and whatever. But yeah, not everybody has to talk. If you don't want to, min-max your life, do whatever you want there. But everybody can talk, or 2 people can talk, or whatever you want to do. Be aware, if you don't talk, you're going to get most of the questions. And quite often, whoever does talk, I'm going to say to them, great, really nice pitch. You are not allowed to speak again during question time, because you clearly know your stuff. I now want to know if everybody else knows their stuff. It's not always that blunt, but sometimes it is. So in some ways, the easiest way to not get asked difficult questions is to be the person who gives the pitch. Anyway. When you give your pitch, I want you to talk to me about your solution, how it works, what the key aspects of it are. How did you solve the problem? Big picture, how are you solving the problem? What's good about your solution? What did you optimize for? And what were you kind of happy to let go? Now, I say what's bad. Don't sit there and shit-can your own solution. But if you wanted to say that we prioritized cost effectiveness and we deprioritized maximum performance because we don't actually think it's that helpful to the consumer, that's a good thing to be able to say. We knew what we wanted to be good at, and we knew what we didn't think was that important, and we happily kind of let some of these metrics go. That's a nice thing to put. That's a great thing to put in your pitch. Basically, a summary of your performance criteria. Tell me about any testing results you already have, and then how you predict this to go during test day. I don't really want to see predicted results that aren't based on real preliminary results. I don't want to see hopes and dreams about predicted results. And don't tell me your thing is going to be amazing if it's not. Because if you tell me it's going to be amazing, I now expect it to be amazing. And if it's only very good, I'm now disappointed in you. Don't overpromise. Promise as realistically as you possibly can. Based on our previous data, this is how well we think we're going to do. We're hopeful that we might get to here, but realistically we believe we're going to get to here. I'm looking for how accurately you can predict your test day results. That's important to me. So if they're lower, but you're very accurate at predicting them, that's a really good thing for me to see. And do you know why they're low? Same thing goes for lifetime. In many of the design and build projects, we'll ask you for a lifetime. I acknowledge this doesn't necessarily apply to the softwares and the robots right now, but to the mechs and the aeros and the whatevers. Be realistic. I'm not asking you to say 20 years when it's clearly not going to last 2 days outside. Be accurate. And then costs. I've got a whole slide on costs that I'm going to talk about in a second. And anything that's discipline specific. Obviously, I'm being general here. Let's talk about costs. So that's the big picture of what should be in your pitch. Every pitch should more or less have this in it. Again, I acknowledge some projects, some of these are going to make more sense than others. So let's talk about costs, because I get this question all the time. Yeah, our robot project, you're going to get an explicit shout out in a second here. Don't stress. So I want 3 costs from you. What did this one cost? So the thing that you put in front of me on test day, that prototype, what did it cost you to get to this point? I want to know that. I want to know how much you've spent so far and da. I don't necessarily care if that's within or not within budget. I don't really give a shit, because if you tried something and it didn't work, and then you tried something else and it didn't work, and then you went, oh, that didn't work and that didn't work. You know what'll work really well? This. And then it did work really well. You having evidence of those failures, those learnings, is a really good thing. And if I know that, hey, this learning cost me $18 and this cost me $16, but now they've got a kick-ass design as a result of that, that's a good thing for me to see. I want to see that. That's one number. It's not the most important number. It's one number. The most important number is this number. What would it cost Dylan to make one from scratch starting tomorrow? I don't have any of the materials. I do have the tools. If you're in ES126 or ABEW, I do have the tools, but that's it. No materials. How much would it cost? Include everything. I need to take that much money out of my bank account, and I need to go to Bunnings or Home Depot or whatever it is, buy the things online, get all of it, get it together, and be able to make this design from scratch. This is the number that matters. Be able to die on this hill. Know everything here. If there is one screw that you had to use that cost 1 cent and you don't put it in here, I will massacre you for this. All right? Get this correct. And if you had to buy a pack of those screws in a 100 pack, then you had to buy 100 of them, and you have to put the full price in the design. You must be everything all-encompassing here. I will pick on this number to the best of my ability. Make sure it is ironclad. All right? You will then get the opportunity to have a discussion about mass production costs. So, all right, great. That was the cost for Dylan to make one. If I wanted to make 1,000 and put them in the field, where would there be cost savings? Ah, well, you remember that screw that you brought one of? I'm going to let it pass. Please stop spamming the chat, or you will get kicked. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Sorry. Then you'll get that opportunity to have the discussion around mass production costs. So, we bought 100 screws. We're only using one of them. Here, I want to divide my screw cost by 100. Sure, absolutely. So we're very willing to talk about that. It might also be things like, hey, we bought a sheet of timber that was this big and we didn't use it all. Can we not pay for the whole sheet? The answer there is we can absolutely talk about that. But people screw these arguments up all the time. They say like, hey, we didn't use the whole sheet. We only used 70% of it. So you didn't use this bit? But I can't do anything with that bit. I need to cut big squares out of it. And so what am I going to do with this? I'm going to put it in the bin. So people make really shaky arguments about their mass production costs. And that's why I say, yeah, we can talk about it, but don't try and defend it too hard, because most of the time you will lose, because there will be some part of the mass production process you haven't thought of, and so that number will be wrong. So talk to me about a price that you might approach with mass production, but don't try and say it would cost this much unless you're absolutely ready to go toe to toe with me in that argument. And no one's beat me yet. So maybe you can do it, but it's a lot harder than you'd think. So this is the really important cost, and then your mass production cost. So what it would cost Dylan to make one tomorrow is the really important cost. The mass production cost, I'm very happy to have that discussion, but just don't overstate your position there. Okay. All right, so this whole discussion, does that apply to the robot project? Basically not at all. I understand that some of the questions in here are, can we price up all the sensors and stuff? I don't really care. What I want you to talk to me about, if you're in the robot project, and maybe to some extent the medical project as well, what were our trade-offs like? Because in your scaled down project and the robot project, whatever, you're using like 10-cent sensors or $1 sensors. But as you scaled it up, these sensors would start to cost $10,000 instead of $1 or whatever. So I want you to talk to me about trade-offs of using 2 versus 4 versus 6 line sensors, and just talk to me a little bit more qualitative. And I know I've been saying use numbers at all times, but if you're in the robot project, I'll allow you to be qualitative in terms of saying we've got less sensors than other people, or we didn't use the RGB sensor because it was the most expensive sensor. I'm happy to have those types of discussion for you to make those types of discussions at me. Similarly for the like the software project, you're going to make some quantitative discussions at me rather than some qualitative discussions rather than some quantitative ones. That's okay in those projects. If you want to know a little bit more about that, you can talk to me in week 11. I'm happy to help you with that. So hopefully that clarifies what I'm sure was going to be a whole bunch of questions. All right, the next bit we can move on to. So what we're going to do through here is a little bit of presentation skills for the next little while. So this is my natural stopping point. If you have any questions about demo day so far, please chuck them up now. I'm more than happy to answer them. And then I'll just keep going with, this is basically the whole rest of tonight is presentation skills and how not to suck and what to happen if test day goes really badly, which will happen to some of you, and that's okay. I'm going to leave this slide up because it might be important. So I'm just going to go up the top here. Where did I get up to? How would the testing be like? Will it be like milestones when you or another lecturer would go to each and every individual group? Yeah, more or less. But Clyde, you'll also have your industry partners there as well. Ben, probably just Ben, go watch the Word 101 video. It'll explain it to you, man. You'll be fine. Just watch the Word 101 video. What happens on test day if the weather is atrocious? Yeah, hey, I was going to say, you're clearly a solid D cell. Yeah, we'll move test day for you if the weather is atrocious. If the weather is patchy, we'll still run it. If the weather is atrocious, we'll change the day. Yeah, you do have a backup in week 13. We also might see if we can run it on, later in week 12, but we'll figure that one out. It's week 10 now. You are correct. Is it okay for our team to be over the cost limit? Oh, maybe. So thinking about costs, particularly as you approach costing on demo days and as you approach the end of your project, stop thinking about this as, okay, let's go the other way. I am your client in every case. I've got pretty deep pockets. I'm willing to fund. I've got pretty deep pockets, but I'm super duper cost conscious, which is every business ever. If you can justify the cost, you can have the money. You just need to have a good enough justification as to why. But also be aware, just because you didn't come near the cost limit It doesn't mean you are cost effective. Okay? So a lot of people will say, we're good on cost because we didn't cross the limit. I'm like, I didn't expect you to get within arm's reach of the limit. I gave you a $100 limit expecting a $20 goal. What the hell do you mean you spent $90 for something that doesn't work any better than somebody who spent $40? So cost effectiveness is extremely important. The question you should be asking around cost is, does Dylan think it was worth his money? Convince me it's worth the money, and you've got a good argument. Fail to convince me that it's worth the money, and you're in trouble, regardless of whether you've breached your cost limit or not. Okay? And if you want to come to me over the next week or two and say, hey, look, Dylan, I think we can do much, much, much better. We would need to purchase this or build this or whatever. And if I go, yeah, I agree with you, that's a great argument, then you ask me, would you fund that? Don't ask me for an extra $40 over your cost limit. Tell me what you're going to do with it, and then request that I fund it, and see what my response is then. Never ask for money. Always show what you're going to do with it, and then ask for that outcome to be funded. Okay? This is difficult, and I understand that. What kind of data is there in software? It's not like the measure like water held or not. Yes and no. One of the reasons, Matthew, that you're going to get access to myself or Cornelius or Ross or Liam or whatever before test day is we'll be able to give you some of that feedback. Okay? That you'll be able to record. Yes, it will be more quantitative. You are correct. It is a more quantitative measure. Qualitative measure. But you should actually have some pretty clear feedback. Another thing that you can do is give it to a bunch of other humans and get responses from them. So you could give it to a human and say, rate the user experience on a scale of 1 to 10, rate the look of it, rate the this, rate the that, and then you could get some numbers that way if you wanted as well, which would be really, really intelligent thing to do between now and week 12, because you can show me those numbers. Can other disciplines go along to the forum to watch? Absolutely you can. Particularly going to the forum to watch the aeros. So the aeros on Friday afternoon will be the very last piece of ENGG1500 testing. That's it. We're done after that. It's the last test day. That's the end of it. So you are more than welcome to come along. You will need safety glasses if you want to be in the room. Can the robot project get costings? We've discussed that. Software kids are really confused now. Yeah, look, the software kids will want to talk to Cornelius. They are a little bit of a... Yeah. Do we include time in the costs? Good question. Don't include it in the cost. Include it as another performance criteria. So something like assembly time or manufacturability or time to build or something like that. Make that one of your performance criteria. Make it separate to cost. Budgeting labor cost is really confusing. Don't bother at this stage. Just make it its own individual criteria, but absolutely you should measure it. For costing for an aero, do we include the string and calipers to attach to the elastic? Absolutely you do. Everything I would need to build your solution. What do I got? You have to cost everything it would cost me to make it. You're okay, mate. Don't stress. Do we need to cost tools like if I had to buy a hammer or something? Absolutely you must. If I would need to buy it, you must cost it in here. If you miss the price of a tool, you will get massacred there. Yes, there are hammers in the workshop. Oh, does the pitch come with a PowerPoint? Great question. No. No pitch comes with a PowerPoint. You are... I don't know if I should say no. The vast majority of pitches won't have a PowerPoint available to them. You'll need to stand and deliver. So... Can I run I'll run them through really quickly. The ones that I do and don't know this for. Education, talk to Josh about whether you can have a PowerPoint for your pitch or not. You will do pitch and then demonstration, and those lines are a little blurry, so talk to Josh if you're in education. Aero will not have the ability to do a PowerPoint. Civil will not have the ability to do a PowerPoint. Desal will not have it. Enviro will not have it. Mech will not have it. Surveying will not have it. And Robot will not have it. Those who might have the option of using PowerPoint are education, sorry, medical, software. Ask your tutors. Does my building from scratch budget include tools? Not if they're the tools in ES126. If you used a drop saw, then you must budget an entire drop saw, and you're going to get massacred. You need to, if you want to make an argument that this thing could have been done with a tenon saw instead, you're going to get Dylan's favorite line, which is, I don't believe you, prove it to me. You should go and get another one of those things, and you should cut it with a tenon saw, and you should put it in, because I don't believe you. All right? If you want to make an argument that it's really easy to do with a tenon saw, then my response to you will be, then why didn't you? There's no excuse. So look at remaking any parts that you've used a tool that you don't want to budget for. Unless you can really accurately defend that, that's a dangerous place to be. How much does the pitch contribute to the final mark? It can be massively important. So we don't, for most of the projects, how we rate your solution as to how it fits the criteria is completely ambiguous by design. Your pitch tells us what to rate you on. So if you come in and say, you know, we're really good at these things, and this is what's really important to us, and you're very good at that, it makes sense, it's got data to back it up, then that's going to make a huge change to the way in which we mark you. If you give a shit pitch, then you're going to get marked in accordance to the rubric, which is the worst possible way you can get marked. So you use this to influence your test day mark. It makes a big deal. What about the 3D printers? There's a budgeting thing for that. I am going to look at the price in the 3D printing thing, but it's in the 3D printing and ENGG1500 Discord channel. It's in there somewhere. It tells you. I'm going to look at updating that formula if it needs to be updated. I'm not sure if it does or not. It might need to be updated. Yeah. But there's a formula in there, is the point. Okay. Cool beans. We look like we're doing okay. Let's talk about doing a good job of your pitch. We're going to run over time. I'm letting you know now, we're absolutely going to run over time. I'm just going to go until this is finished. I acknowledge that some of you will need to go at 7, or you'll be well and truly sick of listening to me by 7. That's fair. The recording will go up, you know, as normal. You can watch it, but I'm just going to go until this is done, and then it's done. I'm going to have... All right. Let's go. How not to suck at pitching. So, crash course on how to be a good presenter, particularly in an environment like this. As I said, I pitched for my company for a couple of years. There was a whole bunch of things we got explicitly taught in how to do this, how to present yourself. So most importantly, the first and last things you say are crucially important. You must present with enthusiasm and authority from the beginning and at the end. The amount of people you will watch on test day who will get to the end and they will just trail off and yeah, they're the things that we did in our project. No, you can't do that. What you must do is write the first line of your pitch, and that might be as simple as, good morning, I'm Dylan Cuskelly and I'm from Team 3. That's fine. That's fine. I'm okay with that as an opener. But you got to know what it is, and you got to be able to deliver it in a way that everybody in the room hears you and go, I'm going to start listening to this person. The first one must be good, and the last one must be good. Write it down. Don't think you're just going to end naturally on a high. Know what your last line was going to be. And it can be as simple as, Thank you very much. I was Dylan from Team 3. Done. But you need to know what it's going to be. Few reasons for that. One, it leaves me with a sense of authority, but also it gives your audience a sign to clap. It's really, really important. You may notice that every single lecture you've ever gotten from me starts with Dylan saying, okay, and ends with Dylan saying, done. It's important for a human being as an audience member to be told, to be given the information of when to turn on and when to turn off. It really, really, really matters. Don't screw it up. Good first line, good last line. You can almost completely go to hell in the middle and nobody will notice. Get them right. You don't need to spend forever reiterating the problem statement to me, okay? I know what your problem was. I gave it to you. It's fine to say, we're here presenting our wind turbine to solve the energy problem, blah, blah, blah. Like, a sentence on that is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's a nice way of doing a little bit of introduction and easing me in. That's a good thing to do, but don't spend 45 seconds reiterating the problem. I know. I gave it to you. Hit the highlights. It's only short. I'm not expecting you to do details here. One of the reasons it is such a short presentation is it's meant to be a punchy, highlight-hitting thing, not a detailed deep dive into the nitty-gritty. It's punchy, it's high level. So that I walk away from this, and I should walk away from your pitch knowing 3 or 4 things. That's it. That's it. If you want me to walk away with 7 or 8, I will have forgotten them. 3 or 4 things. That's all I should be taking away from your pitch. Who are you? What's your solution really good at? Why is it so good at those things? How's it going to do on test day? You're going to need to, put some evidence around that and give me some justification and things, but have a couple of highlights that you want to hit really well, know what they are, and make sure your pitch delivers on those things. As I say, and know how to prove it, all right? Don't make big wishy-washy statements that we're going to be the most efficient or the most this if you don't have data to back it up. My favorite question, you said blah, blah, blah in your pitch. I don't believe you prove it to me. What evidence do you have to back this thing up? I am not looking for you to come in and be a salesman. I'm looking for you to be an engineer who presents a real solution to me, okay? Cool. When you're presenting, as this is all sort of in the same vein, you do this by having definitive language. I'm from Team 6, and I'm going to present my turbine to you today. It has 4 blades and spins at this RPM and makes this much power. Not wishy-washy language things. Try and be as clinical as possible without being heartless. Be definitive when you talk. Vague, hopeful statements are meaningless. It is basically the place you want to be. Don't promise me the world if you can't deliver anything. All of this becomes much easier if you have some real world data to back yourself up. The really wishy-washy pitches we see are from people who haven't done any testing. And the really good pitches we see are from people who have done testing and they know how well their thing is going to go. And it's not always good. Sometimes it's like, it's going to do really well up to here, and then it's going to fail hard. For this reason, because of this. Cool. It's still very definitive. It still makes you an authority figure when you speak. We've touched on this, but I'll touch on it again. You should have a really good reason to the number of speakers that you have. Okay? If you only want 1 speaker, why do you only want 1 speaker? There are reasons to only want 1 speaker. It gives that one person more authority. It can be better for flow. It can be this. It can be that. If you want everybody to speak, there are reasons why it might be nice to have everybody speak. If everybody worked on one part of the project, it can be quite nice to hear from every one of those people. I don't care, but what I want you to do is have a very clear reason for why you have that number of speakers. If you just having everybody speak for the sake of it, the pitch tends to go very badly. Don't do that. If you do have multiple speakers, please please practice and know what your transitions look like. The amount of times that one person will stop speaking and turn to the rest of the team and no one knows who's meant to talk next is disastrous. Plan those transitions out, okay? As we've spoken about, if you don't speak, expect to get asked a bunch of questions. Answering questions. So we will ask you questions at the end of the presentation. That's fine. It doesn't mean you did a bad job of the presentation. In fact, it often means you did a good job. If I ask you a direct question, I'm looking for a direct answer. How do you perform on this criteria? Badly. Okay, cool. Not some, oh, well, because of this and that, you see, this doesn't, don't weasel your way around questions. I'm not training you to be politicians. I'm training you to be engineers. If you get a direct question, give me a direct answer. If I want follow-up, I will ask for it. Or you have the opportunity of flagging it. Did you do any week 11 testing? No. Can I tell you why? Sure. I got hit by a car and blah, 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 blah. All right. So there will be reasons you will want to pour your heart out in some of these particular situations. But if you're getting asked yes or no questions from me particularly, give me a direct yes or no answer. I'm looking for your ability to do that. And then we can do details later if we have time. But often I don't need the details. So we're there. Yeah, cool. Don't talk over each other if you've got the question. If you get a question directed to you and you don't really know the answer, because it's not really your area of expertise, the good answer here is to say, well, that wasn't the section I worked on. That was so-and-so's section. But my understanding of it is this. Don't just deflect, because I will hold you to an answer. Give me your best understanding, but it's also totally okay to say, but the expert here, and if you'd like more information, I'd encourage you to talk to so-and-so, is a completely acceptable thing to do. Getting asked hard questions. We will ask, over test day, some brutally difficult questions. If you've come through a few of the milestone meetings with me over the last couple of weeks, a few of you got asked some brutally difficult questions. Expect some brutally difficult questions on test day. That's okay. We know that we're going to throw some real curveballs out there. And an answer of, I'm sorry, but I don't know the answer to that, is okay. That's fine. I'm not expecting you to be able to answer everything. If I expect you to have an answer, I'll follow up and I'll be like, I'm pretty sure you should know that. But if you don't, you don't. Don't feel you have to pull some bullshit out of your ass, okay? Sometimes I don't know is not a terrible answer to give. The other thing that's not necessarily a terrible thing to do is to take a second to think. If I ask you a question and it's a good question and you're a little bit rattled by it, there's nothing wrong with saying, that's a good question. Do you mind if I take a second to think about it before I answer? I'm likely to say yes to that. I'm going to go, cool, I'm going to ask one of your teammates another really difficult question while you stew on that one. I'll give you 20 seconds to come back with an answer. Okay? So this is not rapid fire game show round. You are more than welcome to take a breath when you get asked a difficult question. It's okay. The extra little bit of background I want to give you here. Why do I ask horribly difficult questions come test day? A few reasons. Sometimes it's because you gave me a loosey-goosey pitch with no real meaning to it. So I'm going to try and cut deep with a question quickly to see whether you actually know what the hell you're talking about or not. Sometimes it's because of that. Sometimes it's because right now we've got our marking rubrics in front of us and you're failing. And you need a miracle to save you here. Let's throw them something really hard. Hey, if they can answer this, if they can even do a halfway decent job of answering this, I would call that good enough to pass. So sometimes what looks like a hospital pass is actually a Hail Mary for you. The other time it happens is you might be sitting at, say, 90%. You reckon they're worth a 95%? Let's find out. Let's throw them something really, really difficult and see if they're worth 95%, 99%. We've been known to give over 100% on test day to people. But you're not getting 100%, over 100% if you didn't really, really, really work for it. So if you think you've done a good job and you're copping some really, really difficult questions, you probably have done a good job. And I want to see just how far I can push you. Okay? So don't freak out if you get a hard question. I'm generally trying to help you. Cool. Okay. I danced around this point before, but I'll come back to it. We are assessing you as a team as a whole. If you are a good member of your tutorial, we will pick up on that during the tutorial, okay? If you are not, then we will pick up on that as well. It's very easy. So don't think you're just on whilst you're being demonstrated. You're kind of on the whole time. Be a good community member, help each other out, things like that. Try and make test day go as well for everybody as possible. Trust me, that will return in your favor. We're not competitively marking you. Everybody can help each other do better. I would love to see you all helping each other on test day. Okay? That's the goal. You are not being competitively marked. How does getting over 100% work with your whole grade? You just get over, so for this 30%, you can just get 32. And it just goes into the calculation. There have been people in ENGG1500 before. It has happened twice, where right at the very end of semester, they had over 100% out of 100. And I had to send them an email being like, I had to dock you a mark because technically you got 101%. It's happened twice in 8 years. Cool. We've already spoken about this, but just to touch on it again, you can't win at everything. Your designs are not going to be good at everything. We know that. That's fine. Know where you're going to win, know where you're going to lose. And sometimes you're going to cop a bit of criticism as a question or whatever, and you're going to be like, yep, our design does poorly here. Okay, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Trying to defend why it's bad at something is not where you want to be. Don't get into an argument there. Just be like, yep, we're not very good at this. That's fine. But know what you did want to be good at. Yes, we sacrificed here. It's because we wanted to do really well here. Overwhelmingly, the thing that I think makes the biggest difference between a person who's good at pitching and a person who's bad at pitching is whether they can channel the fact that they're proud of their design. If they get to the end of test day, and even if some parts of it suck, and even if it didn't work as well as they thought, and even if everybody else in the room is better at it, if they're genuinely proud of the work they put in over the last couple of weeks, and they just talk to me about the fact that, hey, we made this thing, yeah, it's a little ugly, but it does this and it does that, and we've tried really hard on this part of it, that pitch is almost always great. Almost always great. Don't be afraid to let the fact that you care about your project leach out of you as you're giving your pitch. It should ooze out of you as you're giving your pitch. You've busted your ass for 12 weeks on this. You should be really happy about it and be able to celebrate that fact. And you will just inherently give a good and engaging pitch. Because that's actually what makes people connect, is that, as weird as this is going to sound after I've just been like, be hard, be definitive about it, that emotional aspect does matter. So don't hide it from me. Okay, if you're proud of it, let me know you're proud of it, okay? Big picture, solve the problem. Please, in your pitch, don't talk too much about the rubrics. You might feel that it's appropriate to mention it sometimes, like, hey, here's how we stack up on cost, and this, and this, and this, and this. And that's fine. That's a completely valid thing to do. It's an absolutely valid thing to do. But talk to me about how it solves the problem for the consumer as well, all right? It's important. And then finally, you've worked really hard all semester on something and you tank it. You absolutely just tank test day. You forget, it doesn't work. You forget your whole pitch. It all just falls apart on you. It happens. And it will happen this year. It happens every year. It's happened to me. I've stood up in front of many, many people and I've bombed. And I've sat there giving a presentation that I know sucks and everybody hates me. It is what it is. Plow on. It's fine. You're going to be upset. You are. It happens to me. It happens to somebody every year. It's fine. Keep your professional face on. I know you're upset. It's okay. Try and talk to us. We will try and ask you some questions and stuff like that so that we can get something written down for you in terms of grades and stuff like that. Public speaking is difficult. Demo days are difficult. And when they don't work, it can be very disheartening. It's okay. You're allowed to be upset. You are allowed to be upset. That's a completely valid emotion in that environment. Be upset, but just try and also talk to us at the same time. If you completely shit the bed, but you've been working very hard over the last 12 weeks, I'm going to turn to your tutor and say, what grade do these people deserve based on the last 12 weeks of work? You're not necessarily going to get quite that grade, but if they say these are good, diligent students who come to class every week and they try hard, I'm not going to massacre you just because you tanked for 2 minutes on test day. It's okay. We are judging you over 12 weeks of performance. As much as a lot of that judging is going to happen in a couple of minute window, we are aware of what you've been doing over the last 12 weeks. Cool. And I guess kind of in this, the demo day devils are real. These things exist. Things go wrong. They do. They absolutely do. Things will have worked every single time up until test day, and then they'll stop working on test day. It happened to me as well. They have happened to me. It absolutely happens. But failing to plan is planning to fail. If you show up, if you're an aero, for example, and you're going to the forum in order to do your testing or whatever, if you don't bring with you a roll of duct tape and some scissors and some zip ties and some spare bits of something or other to jerry-rig your plane back together, what are you doing? Why are you showing up without the duct tape and the WD-40 so that you can MacGyver your ass out of here? Yes, you might, have bad traffic on the way to uni that day, but why were you leaving at a time that only allowed you to get to the class 5 minutes before testing started? Why weren't you making sure you were there at 7:30 that day? It's one day. Be super duper early, not a little bit late. Things go wrong. They go wrong for everybody. They've gone wrong for me as well. But stack the deck in your favor as much as humanly possible leading into demo day. All right? Failure to plan is planning to fail. And again, help each other out. If you can see somebody else struggling and they just need some duct tape, give them some. All right? Help everybody, help everybody. Bring a screwdriver, bring a whatever. Sweet. And I think this is it. This is the last thing. So, with all of that, week 11 is coming next week. I know I've got milestones to do for 3, 4 classes tomorrow or something like that. Once they're done, week 11, Dylan will be here. I'll be in as many classes as humanly possible. I'll be spread very thin in week 11, but I'll be in as many places as possible. I am there to help you. If you need help, ask. All right? Don't be cryptic. Don't try and back me into a corner by asking me this question, then this question, and try and trap me with something. If you want help, ask, and I will do my best to help you. Try and tell me the types of ways I can maybe give you help is if you're stuck, if you've gone, we've tried everything, we don't know how to do blah, 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 ask me for help. I will see if I can give you a solution to that. If you think you're doing good and you want somebody to come in and ask some nasty questions and poke and prod and see if you have any weaknesses anywhere, I would call that black hatting. Just, hey Dylan, can you black hat us? Yep, not a problem. I'll come and do that for you. I'll try not to black hat anyone who doesn't request it, but it's a really helpful thing to request in week 11. I'm happy to black hat you. If you've got a practice pitch ready to go and you want me to listen to it in week 11 and give you feedback, I will do so. If you're struggling, you've got a design and you don't really know what it's good at and what it's bad at, I might be able to help you with your performance criteria. Whatever you want, all right? Whatever I can help you with, ask. That's my goal. My goal is for you to succeed as much as possible. Over the last couple of weeks, it's been kicking you in the ass to get you in a position where you can get to demo day and smash it. Now it's making sure you smash it. With the exception of the 3 classes tomorrow, you're getting an ass kicking. Beyond that, I'm there to help you guys, all right? So ask for help if you need it. I'm going to do everything humanly possible, and some things are just not humanly possible. A lot of the time, there's 3 ENGG1500 classes all on at the same time, and I just can't be in 3 places at once, but I will do whatever I possibly can. So, with that, what do you need? I know it's 5 past. I know you can leave if you want to leave. Is there anything I can do to help any of you right now? So, hopefully I've given you enough examples of potentially bad pitches there. Which Friday are you at the forum? Friday of week 12 you're at the forum. Yeah, I've absolutely been conditioning you the entire year to be trained to listen to the word okay. This is not an accident. This is a real thing. Yeah, if you get over 100% on in demo day, yes, that goes to if you lost a couple of marks in your report, it just works out. Is the pitching before testing? Yeah, for most projects it is. It depends a little bit on the project. So like the solar desals who set their stuff up for an hour and then collect sunlight for an hour, the pitching happens during that testing process. For the mechs who are about to put their wind turbine in the tunnel, it happens immediately before. It depends a little bit on the project, but generally before. Will every question have a direct teammate questioned, or will there be general questions? No, there'll be a lot of general questions. The way that it plays out quite often is we'll ask a couple of general questions, and if they keep getting fielded by the same 1 or 2 people, we might say, thank you, I'm going to ask this question specifically to this person. Yeah, just to make sure everybody gets that opportunity to answer a question and stuff like that. Some just feel like Dylan's so blunt and straightforward. See my expectations with. Yeah, look, it's a tricky thing to have. I need to be blunt because I don't want somebody to get confused, and I have to be kind of an asshole about it. Okay, so obviously this is a bit of a comment in jest, but how about if a lightning strike hits our robot during the test? Is there a video of your robot performing that you've uploaded to your Discord? Because if so, I'll go and watch that. But if not, then I can't. So when we talk about doing our week 11 test day stuff, getting all of that data, put it all in your Discord channel, because then you have a record of it. And I can use that. If it's in a DM or if it's in a Facebook or if it's just on your phone, I can't use that. But if it's in your team's Discord channel, I can use that. So put it all there. What's the difference between the pitch and the demo? So the pitch... Now, I can't remember, Matthew. Are you a software? So the pitch is without actually testing the thing. It's this is how we big picture solved the problem. Yeah, you're a software. Okay. So this kind of applies. So if you're a software, an education, and kind of a medical, in all cases, you're going to your testing is like a walkthrough of your product and how it works. The pitch is the big picture overarching thing. And then the demo is the tech demonstration. Okay? One is big picture how you solve the problem. And then one is detailed step-by-step walkthrough. that's as clear as I can try and make it. I understand why you have some ambiguity, but in your particular case with the software project, I don't have my phone out when you give the pitch. You give the pitch, no phone. Then I get my phone out and you give the tech demonstration. Okay? Um God forbid, but what if the battery for the robot dies just before testing? That would be entirely your fault. That's where I said if you're not planning for failure, that's if you're not if you don't have a plan here, you're just planning. Failure to plan is planning for failure. Sorry. Do not show up with a set of batteries that are not charged. That's entirely within your control. Buy another set. Keep them charged. Have two sets. You'd be crazy not to, right? Is demo day in week 12? Yes, correct. If we have a project that is mediocre overall, but I could make it do one thing really good before the pitch, would it be a good idea to focus on that and try and make it the main selling point? Yep, it can be. It can be. You're probably going to get some questions about the other parts. Don't talk up your main selling point. Absolutely. Don't try and use it to completely pull the wool over my eyes, though. Be honest about the other bits of, we're middle of the pack on these, bottom of the pack, but here is our good feature. Being honest about that is a very good thing to do. Don't try and convince me that your whole solution is great because one part of it is great. That's dangerous. That's snake oil salesman there, right? Is the demo day during our scheduled class? Yes. For everyone except Aero, which will be on the Friday afternoon, and Solar D-Cell, which will be Solar D-Cell kids. When's the current testing? Is it Wednesday at 1 o'clock or is it different? I can't remember. Simon will tell you, obviously. Give me 1 second, everybody. Please throw some more questions in. Um, Wednesday, week 12, pretty sure. Sweet. Does the best group get free Red Bull? If you can get your Red Bull in week 12, you can pry it from my cold dead hands. That'll be the only thing keeping me standing come week 12. I will not be in good state of health. Okay. By the way, we are finished. If there's anything that you need from me, please let me know. Otherwise, please be free. Thank you for tonight. I greatly appreciate what I know was a long and very intense live stream. Thank you for the questions and the clarifications. Good luck with test day. Good luck with your projects. I'll call it here, guys. I'll be back live again for week 11. So if you have some more specific test day questions, let's address them in week 11 or in the week 11 live stream or in your week 11 classes. Have a good night, everybody. Good luck with your projects. If you put drinks in the Red Bull fridge in ES126, I will drink them. Anything that goes in that fridge belongs to Dylan. Good night, everybody. Thank you.